hello everyone. Welcome to the another session of digital signal processing. Today we are going to start a fresh topic that is about discrete Fourier transform. So in this topic we'll be covering the subtopics as DFT as a linear transform and various properties of DFT. So to beginning with, as we have been discussing about this DSP system, whenever we are implementing this system we are performing two basic tasks. First is the analysis of the input signal and another task is the synthesis of a system that we have to particularly design. So we have to perform the analysis of the signal and we have to design a processing system to give the desired output. For these two tasks have to be performed, we have to perform certain kind of mathematical operations, and one of the operation that we use in almost in every of the analysis is the transform. So here we are going to study this discrete Fourier transform, acronymed as FFT, also as one of the algorithm that will learn how to design FFT algorithm to run this fast Fourier kind of transform in a faster way. So when we talk about this analysis of the signal, most of the signal in the real time, what we call as raw signals, they are available to us as a real time signal, or I can say the parameter that we study is the signal is present into the time domain. So whatever information it is carrying, I need to understand that information, I need to interpret it, I need to manipulate it so that I can use it for certain application. But various signals, when I see in the time domain, they are of certain waveforms which is varying with time, the amplitude is varying with time, or any other parameter of concentration is varying with time. But if I'm not able to get any fruitful information that I can understand or I can manipulate, I have to change the domain. So basically what we are going to discuss is changing the domain of a signal. So basically in the majority of the cases there are two domains in which we talk. One is the time domain and another is the frequency domain. So either I'm going to understand the signal, manipulate the signal in time domain, or I'm going to manipulate the signal in the frequency domain. So this transform, when we talk about any kind of transform we talk about, before learning this discrete Fourier transform, we know about normal Fourier transform, we know about discrete time Fourier transform. So all kind of transform that we use, they are making our life easier by changing the domain of a signal, and in the changed domain I can understand the signal in a more better way as compared to the original domain. So whenever we study about the transform, we talk about the Laplace transform, we talk about the Z transform. So few transform are there in which I want to analyze the signal, and few transforms are available in which I want to analyze or understand the system. So when I talk about the Fourier, I talk about the signal. Whenever I talk about the Laplace or Z transform, I talk about the system. So a better way, easier way to understand and manipulate the signal and the system is something we achieve with this transformation. And various kind of transformation are available for signal. They are depending upon the kind of signal we have. We have a periodic signal, we have a non-periodic signal. Is it infinite or it is finite? So depending upon the characteristics of this signal, we would choose out of the various transform available. Similarly, the system can be analog, it can be digital. So we choose upon the Laplace transform and the Z transform. So that's why we have variety of options with us. So that makes our calculation and understanding work of this digital system a bit easier. So before understanding this discrete Fourier transform, let us understand some of the characteristics that it offers us. It is used to analyze two-dimensional signals as well. The FFT algorithm that we'll be designing soon, it eliminates the redundant calculations that we have to perform in normal discrete Fourier transform. It offers rapid frequency domain analysis and processing of the digital signal. In short, it is fast, as its name depicts, fast Fourier transform, and this allows time domain signal processing operation to be performed equivalently into the frequency domain. That means this algorithm is going to be linear. My signal is not going to be changed as I change the domain of the signal from time to frequency domain. This is considered as it is offering me reduction in the computation time. We'll see when we're discussing about the FFT how much time reductions we are achieving with this. And FFT algorithm, they are useful in computing the DFT and IDFT, and they find their application in almost all the areas, for example, linear filtering, digital spectral analysis, and correlation analysis, to count few. So first we understand DFT and then we'll move to the FFT algorithms. So what is about this DFT? This DFT is basically computing the value of Z transform for evenly placed point around the unit circle for a given sequence. The given sequence can be Xn, having certain points, certain samples, and I know this ROC corresponding to my Z plane. So whatever points do I have on this, for example, let me take these 4 points in this Z plane. So I am calculating their values here onto this unit circle having this radius equal to r. So we'll see that this discrete Fourier transform and Z transform are closely related. So another point is the sequence is of finite duration. Now this is one of the major characteristic and one of the most rememberable point about DFT, that the sequence Xn that I am taking for transforming the domain for analysis of the signal, that has to be finite. Finite number of non-zero values should be there. So I would see that number of samples denoted by n, they should be finite. Like in the case of normal Fourier transform, the sequence can be infinite. In Z transform also the sequence can be two-sided infinite, but that is not the case with the discrete Fourier transform. So mathematically, how do I represent this? The direct transform from time domain to frequency domain is represented as summation ranging from 0 to n minus 1, where n is the total number of the sample given into this sequence, which is multiplied by this exponential factor. And what components do this has? E raised to the power minus j 2 pi n k by n, and this factor k is new factor which has emerged with this transformation. It also ranges from 0 to n minus 1. So we have two variables to study here. One is k and another is n. Similarly is the inverse transform, like in the any other domain we have. Xn, this sample would be obtained from the transformed sample xk by taking the inverse, which is defined as 1 by n summation xk. Now this exponential is same the exponential we have been using in the direct transform, just only sign is being changed. Here we have a negative sign, here we have a positive sign. Again two variables, k ranging from 0 to n minus 1 and n ranging from 0 to n minus 1. So why these two variables are emerging? We have seen in the case of normal Fourier transform, what do I see? Whatever I obtain as an integration function, a continuous function xt is evaluated along with e raised to the power minus j omega t ranging from minus infinity to infinity, where this t is the time period which is continuous in nature. And this second variable omega, which I obtain in the frequency domain, this is also continuous in nature. Now when I move towards digital signal processing, what I am doing, I am trying to discretize these two components. So we go it step by step. First we discretize t by sampling it over a period t and taking n number of samples per second. For simplicity, most of the time, what do I assume? That time is taken as 1 second. So this t can be directly substituted by n. So this Fourier transform becomes, because time has been sampled, this becomes discrete time Fourier transform. So how do I represent it? This x omega now becomes summation, the sequence xt is converted into this discrete sequence, and e raised to the power minus j omega n, and this is summation, you may range it from minus infinity to infinity. So n is discretized. Now this second variable omega is still continuous in this domain. T has been discretized. but omega is continuous. So to move from this domain to another domain where I would like to discretize the omega as well. So what I do, I'll substitute at this place of omega another value, that is minus j 2 pi by n kn, which I see in the discrete Fourier transform. So actually what I am doing, at this place of omega, I am sampling it like 2 pi by n, and this k is something which is discretizing my omega. So now in this domain, when I substitute this, my time is discrete, my omega is also discrete, and this substitution leads to DFT, discrete Fourier transform. So that's why we see in the derivation this exponential e raised to the power minus j 2 pi by n kn, where n corresponding to this and k is corresponding to sampling of the frequency, that is n. That's why we have two variables and they vary from 0 to n minus 1, how many samples I am giving for the transformation. So here I can see this is my direct formula for transformation, having this exponential. Similarly in the case of inverse transformation. So let us see how to take, if I have a sequence xn and I need to calculate a 4-point DFT. So this would always be specified because I'm telling you the sequence has to be finite. So 4-point FFT means the number of samples that I'll give to the transform would be 4, or they would range from 0 to n minus 1. That means at what different values have I to calculate this transform is 0, 1, 2 and 3. So the function is xn is equal to cos n pi by 4. So substituting the different values of n, I can create the sequence xn. So what do I get here? In this sequence, when I substitute the value of n as 0, it is cos 0, cos pi by 4, cos pi by 2 and cos 3 pi by 4. Evaluating the values, this is the sequence I obtained. The sample values xn are 1, 0.707, 0 and minus 0.70 sample. So I need to calculate the transform over these sample values. So I would directly use the transformation formula. I'll solve this summation for n ranging 0 to n minus 1 for different values of k. That means first I would take k is equal to 0, evaluate this summation from 0 to 3. Then I would take k is equal to 1, directly simulating this for k is equal to 2 and for k is equal to 3. All samples summated together would be giving me the final discrete Fourier transform of the given sequence. So step by step, for k is equal to 0, I am getting the first sample as 1. For k is equal to 1, after evaluating this summation from 0 to 3, I am getting this as the final output. Similarly, for solving k is equal to 1 and k is equal to 3. So all the sample values that I get corresponding to input sequence xn are these. Xk correspond to 1, 1 minus j 1.414, 1 plus j 1.414. So this is a direct way to calculate. Just I have to remember that two variables have to be varied, n and k, and they have to be varied for equal length 0 to n minus 1. Similarly, I can calculate the inverse DFT as well. So here xk would be given. Now how many samples are there? 4. So again this is 4-point IDFT that I need to solve. So what do I see? For n is equal to 4, this is inverse DFT formula. Now I'll start in reverse. Variable n and k. For value of n ranging from 0, 1, 2 and 3, I'll solve this summation for different values of k. 0, 1, 2 and 3. So when n is equal to 0, I'll get my first sample as x0. For n is equal to 1, I get my second sample and so on. So this is a final result of obtaining this inverse Fourier transform when I evaluate my given summation over different values of n and different values of k. Now, what is the relationship between this DFT and Z transform? As I have told you in the definition of DFT, that we are evaluating the sample values of Z, different values of Z onto the unit circle is what I call as DFT. So, if I see in the Z domain, how do I write this transform? Xz is xn z raised to the power minus n. It is ranging from minus infinity to infinity. So, how does this resemble with my Fourier transform formula? First of all, the range has to be limited. Here it is from minus infinity to infinity, and I know Fourier transform is finite from 0 to n minus 1. So, if I substitute this e raised to the power 2 pi k by n at the place of this z and provide this n a limit that is 0 to n minus 1. So, this would appear like a discrete Fourier transform. So, this is how if I evaluate z over this value, that is e raised to the power j 2 pi k n, these two transform become equal. So, I was telling you there is a direct relationship between DFT and Z transform. To get a closer look at this relationship, how to derive this relationship, I see that this is the definition of Z transform. This xn is substituted in the definition of DFT. So, here xn is 1 by n summation xk e raised to the power j 2 pi k by n. So, how xn is obtained? Xn is obtained from xk. So, substituting this formula, evaluating, rearranging this exponential, I am taking xk common, making this as a part of summation. What do I see? That this becomes a raised to the power n, which has been summated from 0 to n minus 1. This is a finite series formula. So, applying this finite series formula here as 1 minus a raised to the power r divided by 1 minus a. I am obtaining a newer expression. And after rearranging it and seeing onto a unit circle. Unit circle is when I substitute z r e raised to the power say minus j omega, keeping r is equal to 1. So, here wherever I see this z, I would substitute its value here and obtain this final expression, that how this DFT can be represented by this unit circle of Z plane, where this r is equal to 1. This is how these two planes are related to each other directly, the Z and DFT. Talking about different properties of DFT, like any other transform, we have different properties which are resembling to all the transform, and there are fewer properties which are different from other transform. That is because this DFT is working onto the finite sequence. So, discussing these properties one by one. First property is periodicity, that is, if my input signal is periodic with period n, every time we'll talk about this period n, that is number of samples in the given sequence, then my output sequence would also be periodic. So, another property of the signal that I give into the input of this DFT is periodic. So, that means it has to be finite as well as it has to be periodic. Second property which comes with all the transform is linearity, that the principle of superposition is applicable. So, even if I am transforming the domain from time to frequency domain, the system is going to be linear, that is, the output would remain same, it would not be distorted. Shifting property again comes with a new representation, that if I have this periodic sequence and I shift it with certain unit of time, say I shifted with the k unit of time, then what does it mean? As such, this would respond in shifting in the frequency domain as well. But here with this DFT, what do I see? There is a new shift which is called as circular shift. Because this is a periodic sequence and this is a sequence which has finite number of samples. So shifting is called as circular shift, or it is equivalent to rotation of a signal. So I represent this as x of n minus k and modulo n, where this particular sequence would repeat itself after n shifts. So I would obtain the same sequence if I have shifted the sequence n times towards right or towards left. So this shifting is basically my circular shift here with the DFT. Convolution theorem, like it is helpful in all the transforming domain, that when I talk about these two signals, the convolution in time domain is equal to multiplication in the frequency domain. So if I feel that convolution is cumbersome, I would change the domain of my signal into frequency and then I would simply multiply these two signals. Because all these transform being linear, my output would not change. Only calculation that I was going to perform with the convolution would ease out. So I would get a simpler way to understand a signal or manipulate the signal. So if two signals are converted in time domain, it is equivalent to multiplying their spectra into the frequency domain. Time reversal of a sequence. So if a sequence is xn and I'm simply reversing its value as minus n, or if I am taking the value on right hand side, now I am assuming the values on the left hand side of the imaginary axis. What is the effect into the another domain, that is a frequency domain? So when I talk about this time reversal, x of n, it would become x of minus k. But with this DFT comes the circular property. So I write it as x of capital N minus n and x of n minus k. So this is how I can see the relationship in two domains, that whenever I am changing my variable from n to minus n, how the change is occurring into the frequency domain. Similarly, we have a circular time shift. If I am shifting my signal by unit L, then it is equal to multiplying the frequency domain spectra by this exponential, which is e raised to the power minus j 2 pi k L by n. So shifting a sequence by L unit in time domain is multiplication by this factor in the frequency domain. But again, when I am talking about this shift is circular. So I write it like x of n minus L modulo n. Similar property is circular frequency shift. If I shift the sequence in the frequency domain, what would happen in time domain? It would be multiplied by this exponential, or in reverse way I can talk, if I am multiplying my time domain with this exponential, it is equivalent to shifting the frequency domain spectra by L unit, and this shift is going to be the circular shift. Complex conjugate property. Here if I say the transform of the conjugate, if xn is the transformation, and if I talk about the transformation of this conjugate, what would happen in the frequency domain? This is equal to conjugate part in the frequency domain n minus k. So I can simply say, if I am working with the conjugate in time domain, I can with equal efficiency work with conjugate into the frequency domain as well. Circular convolution, it is same as my convolution theorem, but I talk about normal convolution as star, circular convolution as n encircled by a circle. So if I talk about circular convolution, that we'll be learning into the next session, it is again equal to multiplication of the sequence into the frequency domain. So more or less both the things remain the same. That circular convolution also uses the property that is called convolution theorem. Similarly, circular correlation. If I talk about circular correlation, if xn and yn have been taken, so what is the correlation between these two signals? It is the multiplication of one signal's transform xk and another signal is transformed and its conjugate is taken. So you can represent it as y conjugate k. So their correlation in the time domain is equal to multiplication of frequency domain signal, one signal, and its conjugate of the another signal. So xk, y conjugate, k is the relationship in the frequency domain, and conjugate is nothing but changing the variable from k to minus k, and if I consider the circular property, it is n minus k. So I simply perform this change and obtain the conjugate. Another sequence that I have, if I multiply these two signals in the time domain, it is reverse of my convolution theorem. It is equal to convolution of its signal in the frequency domain, which have been scaled down by this factor n. So of course, I would try to multiply the signal in the time domain itself, because it would be easier for me to multiply these two signals rather than taking their convolution in the frequency domain. The last property that we have is the energy theorem, which is also called as the Parseval's theorem. So if I talk about the energy in the time domain as xn and conjugate of yn, similar multiplication has to be performed in the frequency domain. These are equivalent. The transform of xn, xk, and transform of this conjugate, that is y conjugate k. So energy of the signal is not going to change when we change the domain of the signal. Energy would remain the same. With these properties, we end up this DFT session, and we'll be learning about this next topic, that is circular convolution, which is important with regard of this DFT into the coming session. That's all for this session. Thank you.